I actually had a bit of a chat to Fags after the West Coast game and sort of felt I'd go down that path and chatted to him early on in the week, and it was just the right decision to move on and focus on the next chapter of my life. So I'm happy, I'm content with it, looking forward to the next phase.
You addressed your teammates this morning?
I have, yes. No, that didn't go too well. I was an absolute blabbering mess. I was carrying on like a little schoolgirl.
The meeting went 20 minutes longer because it took you that long to get the words out.
It took me about 4 hours to get out. But I was fine all week with the decision, and it was really tough letting the boys know. But all good things come to an end.
I mean, you've achieved so much in your time at Hawthorn and had an amazing career. But what is the time that you've had here at the Lions those last couple of years in your career meant to you?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, they gave me an opportunity to extend my career. I'm really grateful for what Fags has done for me. It's been a nice little change. The weather's been fantastic, particularly during the winter months. It's been awesome. I'm so happy to have come up here and play with a great bunch of blokes and to play some good footy with them. So
he got sick of his old coach.
So it's been a nice little change for me. I really enjoyed it.
What was it? I mean, it is so special that you had Fags here in those last couple of years to end together when you guys achieved so much.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Got a fantastic relationship with Fags. Go way back. We're at Tassie boys, we've obviously those Hawks days were amazing. So to come up here and spend my last 2 years with him, it's been awesome.
What are you going to do now?
Not too sure. I'm just going to put the feet up for a little bit, take a breath, and just see what's next.
Hey, Beav, you might have a bit more time to
You're cutting out. Trying to crank on me, no doubt.
Birch, now that you've had some distance from your Hawthorn days, how do you reflect on those? And we know the accolades and the premierships, but how do you reflect on that?
I haven't really had too much of a chance to reflect. It's been a bit of a big week for me, but I just feel so fortunate to have such amazing people around me during that time, fantastic coaches and players. And it's just, it's been unbelievable. I wouldn't have thought I'd ever be a 4-time premiership player in my wildest dreams. It's been a fair old journey, and I'll reflect a little bit more over the next week or two. Yeah.
Fags, what made him such a special player? There's only a handful that were in that Hawthorn team for all 4 premierships. And what made him special as a player and as a bloke?
Yeah, and he's the humblest one of them all too. You know, Mitchell and Hodge, Lewis, those sorts of guys are probably a little bit more high profile than Birch. He tended to be the guy in the background to just get the job done week in and week out. People, you look at those premiership sides. I think he averaged about 24 possessions a game in each of those grand finals, playing at halfback, not on ball, not in the midfield where you get plenty of it, but at halfback. And the special part about him as a player was his ability to make quick decisions and to use the ball really effectively. I mean, I think when you look at him at his peak, and he still wasn't bad in the last couple of years, his disposal efficiency has always been a very high factor, and was one of the reasons why Hawthorn was so good at counter-attacking with the football when they won it. We're always pretty happy when Birch had the ball in his hands, and he's just reliable and durable. I mean, up until 3 or 4 years ago, he hardly missed a game of football, so you always knew that he'd be available and that he'd get the job done. And whilst he's not maybe the highest profile bloke ever to play 280 odd AFL games, he's definitely a champion and one of the standouts in his position over the last 15 years.
To take that next step, maybe next year from your couple of years here.
The Brizzy boys, what do they need to do to take the next step? I think they just got to believe in themselves. I just mentioned it to the boys then. That 7-week patch after we started 1 and 3 was one of the best patches of footy I've ever been involved in. So they've certainly got the crop and the talent and the system to do it. We just got to do it at the right time of year. And sometimes you need a bit of the rub of the green or a bit of luck along the way. That certainly helps. But I certainly hope that the last couple of games of the season doesn't dishearten the boys, and I just hope it makes them really stronger and determined to come back and prove a point. Sometimes you got to face a bit of crap before you actually achieve the ultimate. So yeah, I'm sure that I know the character within the group. They'll come back firing and do their very best.
Thanks. I want to just ask you one more on Birch's temperament. He's obviously quietly spoken. We don't see him much in the media, and yet you've touched on his record in grand finals. Like, what allowed him, do you think, to get such a high standard out of himself that maybe we don't see?
Yeah, well, he was always well prepared. I mean, as I said, he never got injured, so he was always doing the pre-seasons and turned up in a really great shape. But I think his temperament is one of a person that is pretty calm by his nature. Nothing seems to faze him too much. Well, not that I know of. There might be the odd little thing, but when he played the game, he was just always in the zone. Always knew what his role looked like, and I guess for him it was fortunate he became an expert in his position, because fundamentally all of his career he's played as an attacking halfback flanker. So he's had 15, 16 years to become an expert, and that's what he was. Probably by the time he was 3 or 4 years into his career.
Any anecdotes, Chris, on that? Like, any memorable moments over the years that sum him up? Think of off the top of your head?
Probably difficult for me, because his teammates would probably know some better things than I would. You know, us coaches and administrators. Well, I was a coach and an administrator at Hawthorn. Probably don't. There weren't too many things. He never got into any trouble. He was just a really easy guy to manage and to coach.
Grant, was there something that tipped you over today? You mentioned you got emotional, and obviously it's the end of a great career. But
Yeah.
was there anything that went through your head that sort of just pushed the trigger a little?
It's just a realisation that this is it. Speaking to the players and coaches who you've spent the last 2 years with, working closely with, it just sort of hit me, and just the realisation that this is it. I'm actually done. So it got a bit teary and carried on a little bit, but we got through it. Yeah.
Marco, are you there, mate?
Yeah, we didn't get emotional when he left, mate.
How do you sum up his career, Marco?
What was that, sorry?
How do you sum up his career?
Well, I think Fags has covered off most of it, but he's such a humble lad who he hardly spoke. That's why we thought he Humphrey for the first couple of years. He hardly spoke early on. And, he just went about doing his work and didn't want the limelight. Just committed to his mates. Loved his footy club and his teammates and his coaches, and didn't seek any fanfare. And that's why he was so highly regarded. And as Fagan said earlier on, his record in big games, but his record in all games really. He was just so consistent. We could just put his magnet on the board and just know that he was going to get the job done every week. And he was a ripper. When you got a bloke who sacrifices for his mates like that, usually you've got to teach that. There's stars that come into the game, but he was a high draft pick, and he could have very well said, "Oh, listen, I'm pretty good here. I want to play in the midfield, or I want to do this and do that." But he just played his role and did so for the best part of 15 years in the game, which is a real credit to him.
Birch, is coaching something that you'd like to sort of, get into? Or,
I'm not too sure. I'd like to stay involved at some capacity in the footy club.
Don't do it, Pete. Don't do it.
Yeah. I think I'll just sit back and take a little bit of a breath and figure all that out. But I would love to stay involved in a footy club at some capacity. Yeah, that's what I've known. That's what I've done for the 16 years, half of my life. So, yeah.
If you talk to him about footy, he knows a lot about it.
What was that, Clarko?
Devonport Magpies.
Yeah, I might have to get back to Tassie and give a bit back. Yeah.
What's the story behind Beaver, Grant?
Yeah, my nickname Beaver. That all started when I lost my tooth in the 2008 granny. Big Robbie Campbell started that. He started calling me Beav, and the boys just ran with it, and it's been my nickname ever since. Even the Brisbane boys knew my nickname Beaver, so they're all over it. So yeah, that's how it all started.
Thanks to you, obviously you've brought in Hodgie and Birch, and I'm sure those guys leave their young defenders with lots of knowledge and that sort of stuff. So how do you replace Birch again?
Yeah, well, there's a young fella by the name of Kadeen Coleman that sort of started to emerge in our defence in the last 3 or 4 games of the season that plays in many ways a bit like Birch, left footer, good decision maker, can hit his targets pretty well. So
He hasn't got a fat ass.
Yeah, I'm about 20 kilos heavier than what he is.
Yeah, no, he did have. Birch has got rather a large posterior, I suppose. It's one of his highlights, but it was one of the reasons why he was stirred mercilessly at Hawthorn. But no, the thing about Grant while he's here, and the same with Hodgie, is they've always passed on their knowledge to their teammates, and that's part of the idea. And what I'm really grateful for is the legacy they leave behind. They didn't just come here to be good players. They came here to teach younger, less experienced players a bit more about the game, and I reckon that strategy's worked pretty well over the last few years for us. And hopefully we probably don't need to do too much more of that now, because they've set us up really, really well.
I was just going to ask, so you think that this group has got to the point now that you don't need to necessarily bring that experience from outside, because you've got that experience in the club now?
Yeah, I think that's the phase that we've gone through. The 5 years since I've been here, we still got the 3rd youngest list in the competition, so there's still plenty to learn. But I think the Huey McCluggages and the Jared Berries and those sorts of guys are 3, 4, 5, 6 years into their careers now, and they can start to do that very same thing themselves, because they're good enough players to do that.
Thanks. So just on another topic, I wanted to just get your take on what's happened, what Lockie and his family have been through this week. It's been pretty full on, hasn't it?
Yeah, he's just a young man who was trying to do the right thing by his wife and his family. That was as simple as that. So with all the COVID stuff and the situation that they found themselves in, particularly for Jules to be a long way away from home, I think it was right and fair for him to start to ask himself that question. Fortunately, they've been able to see a way to stay here, and he's going to continue his career as a Brisbane Lion. But I'm in no way at all critical of the fact that he gave that serious thought, because so he should, and I would have if I'd have been in the same position.
Birch, can I just ask you one? It's a unique situation for you, because you arrived at a football club during a pandemic and you never saw our club outside of one, and so it limits your opportunities to, I guess, make connections out in the community, and it probably increases the importance of your camaraderie with your teammates.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. Particularly that first year when I first arrived, when it all happened, I couldn't train with the boys, and we couldn't go out and build relationships or anything like that. So yeah, it was a tough little period, but that's just what happened and what we're living in at the moment. And I leave here with some good mates, and they're a great bunch of guys, and they're just awesome to play footy with. Yeah, it's been good. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Well done, Birch.
Thanks, mate.
Great career,
Cheers.
mate.
Thank you. Thanks, Parker. Thanks, mate.